Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up, guys? Dave and Duncan from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from UK Deathcore quintet, Bound in Fear. The band's new album, Penance, will be released on October 15th via Unique Leader Records. So it wasn't all that long ago that we were talking about Bound in Fear. Mm-hmm. We reviewed their Eternal EP, which was released back in March, I think, this year. And now, 7 months later, we've got a new 10-track album to check out. We were all fairly kind of positive about the Eternal EP. Although when I was thinking about it, I haven't really went back to it since we reviewed it back in March. I'm not the biggest fan of EPs anyway. I don't really listen to many of them, to be honest, but I prefer to kind of sink my teeth into an album. But it seemed like a kind of no-brainer to check out since we'd actually reviewed their EP before. I kind of
like. Do you think Unique Leader Records is like when a band's like, we just want to release an EP this year, and they're like, yes, an EP and an album. It just
yeah.
It feels like every band on that label works double hard, harder than any other fucking band on any other label.
Unbelievable, and they're still churning them out. I've had another 3 or 4 that are due out in the next couple of months. It's
like, I will give them this. This is how you build a brand.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
For sure.
This is how you build it.
Yeah. So I liked the kind of direction that they were taking on the EP. They had a kind of slightly rejuvenated lineup. So I was interested to see if they could pull it off on an album where they had a bit more room to kind of show off what they were fully capable of. I must admit, the opening track, Dissidence, I think it's called,
yes,
got me pretty excited. Firstly, that guitar tone, fuck me. That is all girth.
Yep.
All girth.
That's thick with 5 C's.
That is ridiculous. When it kicked in, that's all I was thinking about was, holy shit, that guitar tone.
Yeah.
Once I got over the guitar tone, started to think about the rest of the track. There's quite a lot going on this first track, more than I was expecting. A lot of these kind of like deathcore albums tend to be a kind of like the kind of typical build-up track, with lots of, a kind of slow brooding intro and all that sort of stuff. This has got it's got grooves, it's got dissonance, it's got shifts in tempo, the rhythms constantly change. A lot of kind of techie kind of moments on this as well. There's also a bit of clean guitar on it as well to add a little bit of contrast. And there is some of that kind of ominous kind of synth work we heard them kind of play around with on the EP as well.
Ambient melodic vocals in the intro to one of their songs.
Yeah. This first track, there's big kind of tonal type vocals with a bit of kind of melody infused in them as well. So, as an opening track, it is packed. Absolutely packed. They have thrown the fucking kitchen sink at you on this first track. And kind of bold, opening 6-minute track as their opener. I was like, oh, hold on a minute, boys, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
This is a bit bold. That could have backfired. Typically, first track, you're trying to grab someone's attention. But they still did it. Even at 6 minutes, this track had a bit of everything to kind of keep me engaged. It kind of threw me about like an empty tracksuit, but they kind of opted to go big. And decided to kind of lead with the longest song on the album, and I think it paid off, to be honest. It comes with a obligatory shit your pants ending, just like a groove that is utter filth, just ridiculously heavy. And then we move into the next couple of tracks, and you briefly mentioned this before we started recording. The first 3 tracks on this album all contain guest vocalists.
Right.
And usually this is something you would see spread out, on an album. There's a fourth guest later on in the album as well, but they decided to go with 3 on the first 3 tracks. There's a guest vocalist on each. So we've got Jamie Graham from Viscera, Nick Arthur from Molotov Solution, Kevin Mueller from Suffocation, now Alluvial, and there's another guest later on. Taylor Barber, yes.
Much later on.
Yes. Now, I think we are maybe going to be in disagreement about this.
Right, bring it on.
I liked the fact they started this album and they put 3 guest vocalists at the beginning. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Dave, why though? Why? I think it really kept me interested in this album. The different tones kind of vocally gave each track something a little different. Although I liked Dissidence with Jamie Graham, and Scar of Man with Kevin Mueller, probably the most out of the 3 tracks. I thought those 2 had more interesting moments musically and kind of vocally. Scar of Man had some really cool kind of Tony Danza type vibes, which I was loving. Whereas Penance, the one in between, it wasn't boring. It just kind of musically it was a little bit more kind of standard deathcore, but I think with the added vocals in there, it made it a little bit more interesting for me. So I didn't mind the fact that they'd kicked this off with 3 vocalists.
Yeah, see, I like the tracks. So I don't dislike the tracks. I just think that after that, so you get 3 tracks that have different vocal tones in them, and then realistically you don't revisit that for the majority of the rest of the album, which to me feels like that's what you do in an EP. You know what I mean? If you've got 4 tracks to play with and 3 guest vocalists, then that's cool. It doesn't matter where you put them on an album, though. To me, on an album, what you're getting is, for the first 3 tracks, you're getting Bound in Fear and guests.
Yeah.
And then you get Bound in Fear after that. And that just, it didn't sit with me. An album opening with a guest vocalist, in general, I'm not in favour of, because I think it's the first track for the band on their album.
Yeah.
So I want to hear the band on the album. I don't want to hear the band in someone else. I want to hear the band with the album. It's a personal choice purely. It's nothing. Like I say, the 3 songs I enjoyed quite a bit. I totally agree. It kicks off the first track shouldn't work as good as it does, just purely because of the length and the genre that it's in. But it's interesting all the way through.
Yeah.
But by the time I got to track 3 and there's another guest vocalist on here, if you did that through every single song on the album, that kind of makes sense to me. But I would have had these spaced out. Even if you are opening with a guest vocalist, which I wouldn't generally do myself, I would have had them spaced out throughout the album.
The first track, the guest vocalist on the first track is Jamie Graham, who is the kind of head honcho at Unique Leader Records. So he's been maybe like, right guys, let's open this up. I'll take some vocals on this first track, guys. Just stand back.
It's clearly, the thing is, it's clear that he's an influence on them. When you hear his vocal tone particularly, it's clear that that's an influence there. And like I say, to me, it's not that the music's bad in any way, shape or form, or not even that it derails the album for me. From a kind of compositional point of view of an album, I find it bizarre that you start your album with 3 guest vocalists. So 3 tracks, 3 guest vocalists, and then the next one doesn't come in to right near the end. If that is a vocalist. I don't even know if the last person is a vocalist or not. And that comes in right at the end. Yeah. It's like, why that? What made the decision to do that one there, but not the rest? I don't know. To me, I like that because each of the vocalists as well, like you say, brings a different element. So you get 3 tracks that feel kind of like different and individually sounding, and then the rest of the album sounds like the band. It's just how, like I say, my brain was trying to work out why someone would want to do that, as opposed to disliking what it sounds like. So it doesn't ruin the experience for me by any way. It was just one of those ones where I was like, I've never seen that before. I can't think of any album ever where you put the majority of your guest musicians all in the opening 3 tracks of your album, or even 4 tracks. kinda...
I think I could understand it if, like, after that third track it went downhill. Like Ben Mason, the vocalist,
it doesn't. Yeah.
He can hold his own. Like, without the guest vocalist, he's
fucking amazing vocalist.
Awesome. So it doesn't when it hits track 4, it doesn't just go like, all right, this.
Yeah. But there's a dynamic change there. You know what I mean? Like, those 3 tracks that start off with is a clear dynamic change because there's not just one style of vocals on that.
Mm.
And then beyond that point, there's one vocalist beyond that.
Yeah.
So, like, this was the first time I was listening to Bound in Fear.
Yeah.
The first 3 tracks I hear from this band have dual vocals.
Yeah.
So you kind of start to get an idea of what you think the band sounds like, and then it switches up on track 4. It just seemed like, like I say, want to stress just now. I enjoyed this album. I really enjoyed this album.
Yeah.
But I'm big on, like, you know what I'm like. I like structures of albums and flows of albums, and to me, this is the one element where I was just like, it seems weird that you would.
It wasn't
I'm sure
predictable
there's a good
at all.
reason. I'm sure. I'm going to shut the fuck up about Bound in Fear. It's their
sure,
album.
yeah. I'm sure they've got a reason.
They can put their songs whichever way they want, however they want it. Fucking, it's their album. But from a listener point of view, it kind of threw me. But I do like all 3 opening songs.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. The only track, I thought Penance, musically maybe wasn't as good as the other 2.
Which is the title song as well.
I know. Yeah, it just didn't land for me.
Yeah.
I prefer them when they're being a bit more kind of fearless, you know, and trying different things.
Yeah.
Tracks like Cutthroat, for example, where they just go like balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Mixing up the styles, adding a bit of hardcore, or even some kind of like the kind of death metal kind of blast beats. Sadist was another track that really stood out, where they play more with those kind of ominous tones in the background. They don't overdo it, because, you know, we're getting a lot of that now, you know, from the here comes the ominous synths, but
it's a unique leader sound, isn't it? It really
a little
is.
bit.
Like, it's deathcore with like kind of weird ambient ominous synths.
Yeah.
And they've got the balance perfect on this album.
Yeah. I think they use it quite tastefully here. It doesn't kind of overpower their sound, which I quite liked. I thought it's funny, we were just talking about the first 3 tracks. I thought the kind of start and end of the album were the strongest parts for me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt they were at their most kind of fluid and kind of creative musically. I felt there were more moments on those tracks that stood out and were more memorable. Especially the last 2 tracks where they had kind of more variance. There's some variance in the vocal tones and different textures. Obviously, having the guest vocalist like Taylor Barber helps, but even on the closing track, there were some really nice cleans in the kind of higher register that I thought added a bit more contrast as well. Production was what I'd expect from a kind of modern deathcore album.
Fucking huge, Dave. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. It has an absolute sonic punch to it. As I said, love the guitar tone. It is absolutely monstrous. Drum production is as you'd expect. You know, there's a lot of samples on it, sure, but it's just how metalcore and deathcore sounds nowadays. And it does what you'd want for that style of music. I think this was another fairly enjoyable release from Bound in Fear. I'd say there was probably about 70% of this I really enjoyed, where the band I felt were really kind of hitting their stride. Everything was just kind of lined up perfectly. The arrangements were interesting and engaging. The riffs had a ton of weight, and the vocals either elevated that heaviness or added some kind of light and shade. There were other parts that I thought were maybe a little bit forgettable, where it could have been a number of different deathcore bands. Not bad tracks by any means, but nothing that I haven't heard done before by other bands. There were moments on some of those tracks that landed well, little bits, you know, an odd riff or groove that I thought was clever, but overall maybe just needed a little bit more kind of creativity just to stand out a little bit more. So for the majority, I enjoyed it. Just a couple of areas where I felt it was just a little bit too much of the same that we've heard before. What about yourself? What did you think of this?
So I think this is like a marked improvement over that EP. Like genuinely, I very much like yourself. I'd never returned to that EP, but I didn't have a huge amount of negative things to say about it.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. So I was interested to see what we were going to get here. I was also happy to see that it wasn't just the EP plus some extra songs. So like they went away and they've done more stuff. You know, been in writing mode. I wouldn't be surprised if originally these were written all around the same time period, and you know, you got the EP first, and then we're refining these tracks. Might be wrong. That's a guess. Once again, it's interesting. I don't want to. I'm not going to spend too much time on the beginning. I'm not going to. But it's interesting. You're saying that there's moments here where you know they kind of don't necessarily do much in the way of stuff you haven't heard done before. Mm-hmm. Like see, after one of those songs, if one of those guest songs were in there.
Yeah.
That, you know, you get those moments where you're building into, you're getting something, then you're building into the traditional deathcore stuff that's there simmed, and then building back into another guest vocalist appearance, which then changes the dynamic of the album. Then you bring it back down to your core. I think that makes the album flow a bit better. I'm with you. I think the opening 4 songs, actually, I really like Beyond the Mire. The opening 4 songs are like, they're like, it grabs your attention, it pulls you along, it's really interesting. Some of that kind of jaggy guitar stuff is great. I love that. And then by the time you get to like kind of Cutthroat, Null and Polarity at the end, I thought were all like standout tracks as well. I Still Dream of the End and Adrenaline are fine songs. They certainly fit within the genre, and would be killer live for sure. They have the moments, they have the setups, the moments that, you know, if you're a deathcore fan, you're waiting for, and they deliver. If you're a fan of that genre, they're delivering you what you want as a listener. But whilst there's that big move there for them, those moments where the kind of, it's not resting on the laurels, but go back to a more conventional sound like we heard on the EP, almost feels like they're taking a step back. Yeah. Because you're right, I think specifically what they brought to, without going all Liam Neeson here, they brought a particular set of skills to this album, which I think shows improvement. It shows, it's not even just like vast improvement, it's just songwriting improvement, where they're now more comfortable to dynamically change things up a bit more than they did, specifically on the vocals. The vocals have got a fucking amazing tone. Like, this guy was born for one thing, and it was to fuck you up. And he delivers it. And the range he's got and the tone he's got is perfect for the fucking sound the band's got, and like that guitar tone could overshadow everything, but it doesn't. Yeah, it is monstrous as fuck. But the drums being as punchy as they are, and his vocals being as sharp as they are, and the use of the atmospherics that you were talking about specifically, like those kind of weird ominous stuff that's in the background, it all is produced and lined up spot on for me, which I really enjoyed. But it does feel like they're at this kind of precipice of doing something that makes them stand out a bit more against the roster of bands they're with. Like, Unique Leader really has kind of cornered the mark of this is our brand of deathcore, and the bands on here are going to bring you various shades of that stuff and their own little personalities, their own little tweaks. But at moments here, it kind of felt like they were starting to push a little bit out from that and bring something that a lot of the other bands aren't doing. Yeah. And those were the highlights for me. And when they kind of went back to the conventional stuff, it's not that it's bad. It's not bad at all, or even poorly written. It's not. It's just it doesn't sound as good as the other parts of the album. Yeah. It's weird to describe. It's weird to. We've listened to a lot of Unique Leader stuff this year and a lot of deathcore. I get a feeling, like we mentioned, that it's going through a bit of a renaissance at the moment. So there's a lot of bands coming out who have kind of reinvented the deathcore sound. And there is a template and a blueprint for that, like it was in its first incarnation. Bound in Fear have these little flashes of things that make them really, really interesting. I just wish there was more of them. Yeah, but there's not a bad song on this album at all. I enjoyed the choice of guest musicians as well. I think they were chosen for the right reasons. They all add an additional. If you're going to bring a guest vocalist in, if you're going to bring a guest musician in, it should be to bolster your sound and add an element that conventionally you as a band can't do yourself. Whether it's melodic vocals because you don't do melody, or it's additional guitar work because the lead's something that you can't do conventionally within the band. But it should also at the same time not be something that you can't do then live. You've got to do it live. It needs to work. And at no point on this album do I feel like there's an element that can't be recreated live.
Yeah,
which is a big thing for me. So, notwithstanding my brain break at how they've constructed the album, it's a step up from their EP, which I enjoyed, and they're doing enough to make themselves stand out from the rest of the bands that are on that label. So if you're in it, once again, I seem to be, if there's one album you listen, if you're a deathcore fan, and you've never listened to Bound in Fear before, get these guys on your radar, because there's loads here to enjoy, especially about the kind of modern side of things. I just personally, and it might be deathcore fatigue now, I will say this: they didn't fall into the trap. They have not fallen into the trappings of some of the other deathcore bands that are going around just now, in that they know exactly how long this album should be. This one is out just over 40 minutes. 10 songs, 40 minutes. Yeah. That's it.
Good length, yeah.
No longer than that. And they have that for them as well. So, I'd like relatively positive on this one overall. Which I don't know why I'm sounding surprised. Like I say, I enjoyed the review.
Yeah. So ratings for this one. I did enjoy this for the most part. As you said, there are clear standouts on this album where they are trying different things, being a bit more creative. And there are moments where it kind of leads back into, the same old kind of deathcore sound. I think in a year where we've had so much deathcore, and a lot of it has been really high quality, like your Osayas and your Brand of Sacrifice and all that sort of stuff. Comparing it to those albums maybe doesn't quite, hit those kind of heights. But I definitely enjoyed a good part of this, and I loved the production. I thought that guitar tone was just fucking unbelievable. I think overall, I'd probably go 3.5 on this one. What about yourself?
I'm the same. Yeah, I think there's loads in here to kind of really sink your teeth into. They're clearly a band that is worth keeping your eye on. They're in the right place and they're working with the right people. You know what I mean? They're surrounded by the right talent as well. And all the component parts are there. I'm just waiting for the next element that they appear to be leaning towards that will make them sound the way I think they can. That makes it. I'm talking in riddles and all the rest. I couldn't put my finger on it and say this is the one thing I would do differently, if that makes sense. But I'll know when I hear it, and I think there's flashes. Yeah. There's flashes of things there where I'm like that. Oh, just do more of that. I think you mentioned kind of Tony Danza side of things. Yeah. I miss that band, man. I really, really do. But there's elements in there where I'm just like, just keep leaning into that. Yeah. So it was a good listen. Ferocious listen. Let's put it that way. Yep. And yes, we all want the recipe for that guitar tone, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
This one drops on October 15th on Unique Leader Records. I will put links below to their Facebook and the pre-order for the album so you can check it out. Let us know what you think once you've heard it. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That's the review. Thank you for checking it out. Much appreciated. We will be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.